Good morning, Jimmy. Good morning, David. Thank you guys for joining me today.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Tom. Hey, David.
All
It's great to
right.
be here with you.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. And there's so much happening right now. So we got a bunch of people jumping on. Absolutely, yes. Hey, just everybody that is out there watching right now, tell me first and foremost, are you by yourself or are you on a team? Right? Are you sitting with a bunch of your team as an example, right? Solo or team, just so I get some context. So I know I got a bunch of my teams joining us this morning as well. All right, looks like a lot of solo. Okay, I love it. Love it, love it, love it. All right, so while you're doing that, before we jump in and get started, we have a great, I don't want to call this a show. This is a great training for all of us today on the economy, what's happening, what should we be saying, and then how should we be capitalizing on what's happening. And by capitalizing, I mean creating more conversations, creating more opportunities to get appointments, creating more opportunities to cut through the noise and ultimately serve our customers. So pull it up for me real fast again. I want to see, just check in. Where's everybody from? So I get a sense real quick. What's up, Michigan in the house? All right, I got to take my glasses. David, it's official. I'm of that age where I have to take my glasses off to read. Or I might
put
need
mine on, so you have to take yours off.
Exactly. Palos Verdes, yes. Santa Fe. All right. Middletown, Connecticut. The Woodlands in Texas. All right. So we got people coming in from all over the place. My team on the back end. Everybody, if you would take a second, and I've got maybe 3 or 4 polling questions that I think will be really interesting as we jump into this training today. So let's go ahead and show the polls, if you could, please. Go ahead and show the polls one at a time. If everybody would just take a second and just give us a quick answer on this. Let's see. Yep. Right. Tell us about your market first and foremost. So is the poll already going? Yep. Okay. Now I see it moving. There we go. Right. Important distinction here. So the question I'm asking, Jimmy, is, hey, is your personal market up, down, or flat? Like what's happening in your area? And then secondly, I want to know, how are you doing compared to the market? Are you up, flat, or down? Right? Just getting a sense of where everybody's at. The third one is really what I wanted to get into today and why I reached out to David. There's just a lot of negative news happening right now. And I actually, like, candidly, because Jimmy knows my coach, on my coaching session yesterday with my coach, I literally said to her, I just feel like I'm being bombarded by negative news, just everywhere, and like the housing industry, and oh my God, and we're in a recession and we're all gonna die, and literally my coach just punched me, David, through the Zoom channel. You with me on this? She's like, Tom, come on, snap out of it. Maybe you need to change the algorithm of your YouTube channel or Instagram. And I was like, I started putting in like cat videos and dog videos to change the algorithm. But again, partially because I wanted to be prepared for this session today, right? Understanding like what's on the pulse. So I'm asking questions like, hey, what do you think the biggest threats, right, agents are facing right now? So interestingly enough, these numbers, right? Thank you, from, I forget whatever poll number that is spot on with the same one I did on Instagram just a week ago. And, just for context, everybody, as we jump into this, I asked, what are the biggest threats that you're experiencing today, or what's maybe causing you some consternation? 68% said affordability out of 4 things, 68% rates and home prices. And on the second one, David, 87% was the economy.
Yeah.
87% was the economy. So, all right. So I'm getting some great answers. Let's make sure on my team we capture all of this. Thank you all so much for answering. But look at the last one, Jimmy. Right? Are you tracking the expireds and withdrawals in your market? The answer was first, yes, and I'm working them. Looks like a high percentage of you. That's good. But 43% of the people said no, they're not tracking that right now. That's interesting, because what do we know is, call it, 50 some odd days away. The biggest listing opportunity day of the year is January 1st. And we're already seeing leading indicators of people taking their home off the market, not expireds, but just taking it off the market. So there's going to be a lot of opportunity for all of us, certainly between now and the end of the year, and then, of course, going right into the new year. All right, so with that said, we got a whole bunch of you out there. Happy Friday. Thank you always for joining us on the Appointment Engine. Remember, our job is to help you find more opportunities, list more houses, sell more houses, have a quality of life. So you showing up today on a Friday always means a lot to me, because this is a great way for you to say, cool, now what am I going to do next week with the information I learned today? So my note for everybody was, I asked David Childers from Keeping Current Matters to join us. And here's the hook. I want you to write this down, to share some marketable insights. Some marketable insights. So David doesn't have slides today. He's just going to be talking and sharing insights, and it's going to be on you and I to take a lot of notes. And then Jimmy is then going to say, here's some ways that I would take that information and turn it into an email, turn it into a text message, turn it into a social post, right? As an example. And then we'll banter back and forth, because we also think there's going to be a big expired listing opportunity. I know Jimmy's got some great stuff for you there. All right. So with all that said, right, we've been going for about 5 minutes. I try and keep these at 30 minutes or less. Yeah. So David, midterm elections, the economy, you're in New York City right now.
I am. Yeah.
How's the market, and what should all my best clients be thinking about and sharing with all of their customers and prospects?
Yeah, I think there's a lot going on, and we are in a good time for this. Jimmy and I were talking yesterday, did a quick live on Instagram, so we're well prepared for this. We've had this conversation because there are things happening. I am in New York City at Lance Lambert's event, and I told you, and we don't have to get into this, but Bill Pulte just spoke, and just what is this administration thinking about housing? But I
think, listen, in fairness, what did he say?
Well, he called Jerome Powell a maniac. And he said he feels like that by them not taking action in this economy, lowering the Fed funds rate, they're doing more harm than they're helping. Now, there are a million different opinions on that. Yes. I tend to agree more with him in that. But here's the point. This administration is trying to push that agenda forward. If they can get rid of Powell, they're going to do it. Let me just do that. Like, that's loud and clear. And so I think we want to watch. But at the end of the day, we have people in these roles that are familiar with our business. That is a good thing. That is a good thing. So let's talk about the election Tuesday. I mean, here we are. Friday was just a few days ago. Jimmy and I were talking about this. This is the first time that I saw an election, not that I've been in tune to every single election, that every elected official in their platform referenced housing affordability.
Exactly.
It is the biggest issue for Americans right now. And I think in our business, Tom and Jimmy, we've talked about that a lot. And everybody on this call knows that affordability is in a tough, challenge position. But that was interesting. It was very interesting. And the analogy that I always think about is the way that politicians work is they sort of run towards the burning building, right? And they say, hey, we care about you. We're going to put the fire out. So vote for us. We're the good guy. And everybody does it, right? Both sides of the aisle do it. And so in this case, affordability is the burning building. They are kind of going, hey, vote for me because I'm going to fix home affordability. Now, whether they can or they can't, that remains to be seen. And let's hope that there are things that they can do to make homes more affordable. And everybody on this call wants to see more people be able to achieve the American dream. And that's an important thing to all of us. But that was at the centerpiece of Tuesday night. Whether you agree politically with who was elected or any of that, that was the centerpiece. So in our business, our ears should perk up. That's where Jimmy and I started talking. And I'm like, okay, here are some things that I'm seeing. This is something that we need to be, one, informed on, educated in, able to articulate, and, oh, by the way, engage people in conversations on this topic right now, because make no mistake, that is the most important thing to people in this country right now. Whether you own a home, you don't own a home, affordability is the major issue.
So two things, and I want to ask Jimmy an opinion on this. It was a few days ago that was announced in the U.S. that the average age of the first-time buyer just hit 40 years old. Mm-hmm. That's insane. The average age of the first-time buyer hit 40 years old. I mean, my goodness, I bought my first house at 19. I know how many people I know that bought it in their 20s, right? Some maybe in their 30s, but 40 just seems like an insane number. The other thing is I'm on Polymarket right now. Fed decision to drop rates in December 75% overwhelmingly betting on a 25 basis point decrease,
Yeah.
right? A 25. And the question is that enough?
Well, what they're trying to do too is what Powell said in the last meeting is don't bet on it, right? They don't want to phone it in too soon.
Right.
So it's an interesting market.
So Jimmy, so by the way, if you're not on Polymarket, you should all be on Polymarket. It is a fantastic way to get a pulse of what people are thinking. And no, Polymarket is not sponsoring this show. Just a personal way for me to keep in touch with the zeitgeist. Jimmy, so you and David just had a conversation on this yesterday. Hey, I got all these amazing agents watching right now. What's the email that I should be sending? What's the text I should be putting out? How should I be messaging this in a way that is non-political, but instead just, hey, here's what's going on. Here's what you need to know from your friendly neighborhood real estate agent.
Yeah, we'll get a chance to cover some examples I'll show you around expireds. But right now, based on what David just said, I think the first thing that comes to my mind is you have got to address the objection head on with your marketing. This idea of kind of trying to circumvent it only draws more attention to the issue. As an example, this is like PR 101, David, which is the first thing to do when you have a crisis is admit you have a crisis and then overcorrect. It's usually the cover up that's worse than the crisis itself. So the first thing that comes to mind, Tom, would be three things. Number one, David, you mentioned affordability. You mentioned the fact that we're starting to see like positive trends that no one's talking about. I think the headline that comes to my mind is the problem with waiting. Yeah. And so I would build an entire campaign around that idea of the problem with waiting. Because right now, Tom, I don't care if it's home prices, interest rates, inventory. We got a bunch of people on today's call who are talking to consumers every single day. And the number one thing they're hearing from them is, we're going to wait. And we're going to wait, insert reason. And that reason might be economy, inflation, inventory, interest rates, right? We're going to wait. We're going to wait. So I think the first campaign, not getting ahead of our skis here, we'll cover expires a little bit later on, is I would just address the objection head on, and I would build campaigns around that concept.
I agree. What goes through my mind also is this is an opportunity, everybody. If you haven't taken the time to do Instagram stories where you do, or meta stories where you can ask questions, right?
Yeah.
I look at a recent one that I did that sort of prompted some of this conversation where I was just asking questions, trying to help, understand what's on your mind so we can do a better job for you. Well, isn't that the same thing you should be doing for your clients? Like, what do you think is the biggest impact of, and give them 4 options in a, Q&A poll. And then after you ask a few polling questions, and Jimmy, what are 3, let's just role play here. David, same thing. If we're going to poll and give them like 3 or 4 ways that they can answer a question, what's a poll you would run today based on this information?
Yeah, I'll kick it off, David. I'd love to get your reaction to this. I think the first thing is I would do something what therapists do, which is future pacing. And one example to this would be, what's one thing your next home must have that your current one doesn't? And so I'm trying to get them to envision a world where they're actually getting out of the state of paralysis and moving towards sort of like where they want to go. So that'd be one question that comes to mind, is future pacing, is what's one feature your next home must have that your current one doesn't?
Okay. I love that, because it's a way to, but I think I'd have that at the end. I'm going through here. So my friends, we're having this conversation together. We were all sitting inside a room trying to figure out what's the most effective way to communicate this message, not being political, but just try and figure out who's actually thinking about doing something. I think my first one would be, I would go into my stories and I would type in like, hey, would you take a minute and answer a few questions for me? And I'd probably put a bunch of finger emojis like this. So they go to the next story. And the question I would ask first is, what do you believe to be true in 2026? Home price appreciation, flat, or home price depreciation? And I would give those 3 answers, like A, B, C, to see how people respond. Then I would ask number 2, I would use the questions, where the Q&A inside of Instagram, where I would say, tell me why. And what I want to get is, I want to get their opinion. I want to understand what's on their minds. And again, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to repost the poll that I did a couple of weeks ago. So in the next hour or so, my friend, you should go to my Instagram stories and you should go through. I'll just show you what I was doing, because I'm asking a polling question. Do you think it's A, B, C, or D? And then I'm like, why? Tell me your opinion. Then I asked another one, right? Do you think interest rates will come down after, or, here'd be a great question. Do you think interest rates will come down one time, two times, or three times before Jerome Powell's term ends in May?
Yeah.
And just to get what's on people's minds. And then again, I'd say, tell me why. Tell me why. And all you're going to do, my friends, is you're going to discover like what's on the minds of your customers. What's on the minds of your customers. And then so let's just say they do that. David, what are they going to learn? And then Jimmy, what could they then market in an email newsletter, in a Instagram reel, in a postcard from that?
Well, yeah, Jimmy's the best at the words in doing this. I think what we're going to learn, and we kind of already know it. I always want to ask a question when I sort of know what the answer is going to be.
Yeah.
We know, let's go back to Tuesday. The biggest issue on the minds of Americans is affordability. So let me give you two things. Jimmy and I talked about this yesterday. This year, since May, on the average price of a home in this country, the payment has gone down $300. So I want to kind of go, did you know?
Yes.
That the average price of a home in this country has gone down by $300. Jimmy has a great example of Olivia Sawyers, who sent this out to 40 potential buyers. I think got 18 responses, Jimmy, maybe 7 appointments, and closed a deal just on engaging on where this market is at right now. So that's number one.
Yep.
Number two, this one's fascinating, and Jimmy and I talked about it yesterday. If you will take the average price of a home in your market and compare the payment where we sit today to 5.99, it's not that big of a gap. But yet everybody's like, hey, when we get there, I'm jumping in. And I do believe that to be true.
Yeah.
Yep.
But when you start to break it down, those numbers become very, very interesting.
So here's another question, Jimmy, just because I would add in my poll, what interest rate would have to exist for you to make a move?
Yeah.
What interest rate would have to exist? And I would not be outlandish. I wouldn't leave it as an open-ended question. I would say if the rates got to 5.99, if the rates got to 5.89, if the rates got to 5.79, so it's not like so outlandish, but more in sort of the last, 20, 30 years of the average, right? Just to see how people would respond. Now, again, Jimmy, I don't want to steal your thunder. You're way better at this than I am. How else would you take this information and help our clients be more effective in the market?
Well, let's just recap something you said, because I want to make sure everyone understands it. It's so smart. The part of what you're doing when you're creating these polls and asking these questions on social media is you're gathering insight and intel about the market that you then can use to create your marketing campaign so they're much more relevant.
Right.
And so a lot of what we do is direct response marketing. Hey, send this email, send this postcard, send this text. What Tom is recommending is it's a unique way for you to improve all of your marketing. So just want to call that out. Yep. Gather information. And the way that I always think about this, Tom, is conversations create conversations, which is if you get people talking, it gives you information that you can now use to create conversations. Let me give you an example of this. Let's say I did one of your polls where I asked that interest rate question, where I asked my 150 followers on Instagram, I got 10 responses. At what interest rate do you become a buyer? 6.2%, 6%, 5.75%. Let's say 60% of people said 5.75%. I would then start going down the list of people in my CRM who have engaged me. I start texting, hey, I just ran a poll on Instagram, and 60% of potential buyers told me that they would make a move at 5.75%. I immediately thought of you. Where do you land on this?
Yeah.
And so I'm using, let's be clear, think about the framework here. I'm using the fact that this just happened, this poll I just did just happened. I'm giving them interesting data, and then I'm telling them, hey, I just thought of you, and then I'm asking an easy to answer open-ended question. So that's exactly how I would use that data on social media. Like, use social media responses, Tom, to power your prospecting is the big insight there.
Yes. I love it. So, David, if this was the last If this was the last show for you of the year and you wanted to level set for all my friends watching, what do you think is going to happen in 2026? What should they be expecting? And besides, more chaos on the news, and I'm admitting right now on this show, like I'm done doing research. I'm turning off the news for a while. If something really bad happens, someone will let me know. That I'm convinced of. But David, what's your forecast what's NAR's forecast and what's your forecast for 2026?
Yeah, I think Tom, right now we've got all those in, on mortgage rate forecast, transaction forecast,
Yep.
Appreciation forecast, all of that. And I'm here in New York, and CoreLogic is here. Everybody is here.
Yes.
Talking Moody's, talking about real estate. I'll tell you this, a couple of things. One, I think we will continue to sort of turn the corner in the housing market. It's forecasted that we will sell more homes next year.
Yep.
Total home sales this year with new and existing will be around 4.8 million. Okay. What's forecasted for next year is north of 5.2 million. So not tremendously, we're not going to blow the doors off, but probably 10% improvement.
Yeah.
Mortgage rates are, and why do they say that? Mortgage rates are forecasted to come down slowly. And all this is based on incoming data. If the Fed comes out in December and says, hey, we're going to do something, we continue on this trend, I personally believe we will bounce around the low sixes, dip our toe in the fives sooner than what we think.
I agree.
I think that is probably going to become true. Appreciation will remain flatter. That is very clear right now, and what everybody here, on Wall Street and in the housing market, we're not going to see tremendous appreciation. So we're in a market right now is sort of getting better, but not, taking off. That is the truth about 2026, I believe. Now, I think using all of that to say, okay, how do I then create messaging for it is going to be critically important. Jimmy, we've talked about this a lot. But let me give you a couple of things too that I think are barometers for this market. You asked me this, Tom, when we were texting yesterday. As of October, 20% of the homes on the market had a price reduction. Delistings in this country are 57% higher than the same time last year. So we have this market that's kind of plugging along. I'm saying, hey, we're going to turn the corner into 26, get a little bit better. But you have sellers and buyers that are kind of like, gosh, we sort of feel stagnant right now. Sellers going, hey, we're just going to take the home off the market. Right. And I know folks on this call feel that as well. So I think this is the market that we, need to recognize that and say, how do we build an offense given that?
It's interesting, David. So go ahead, Jimmy. I got a couple points, but go ahead.
Well, I want to share a campaign here, Tom. So why don't you go ahead and share your thoughts? I'll give you an example of what David just said.
Cool. So, David, I'm going to be in DC, Boston, and Philly coming up this month. So I started pulling up some of the forecast conversations from January of this year. So I'm looking at a slide that you shared with me, Keeping Current Matters, 2025 30-year fixed mortgage rate forecast as of January 7th, 2025. And here was the average between Redfin, CoreLogic, Wells Fargo, MBA, et cetera, 6.36.
Yeah.
That was the expectation. So you're saying you think we're going to be somewhere in the fives. I was talking to one of my cross-country mortgage, rock star, Glenn, who's one of the CRO of the company. And he's like, we can already do that.
Yeah, right.
And I'd just be curious for everybody out there, like, it actually in the comments really fast, your loan officer, what is the best rate they're currently offering you? Like for your clients, and again, special circumstances, first time, this, that, yada, yada, yada. But I want to see it in the comments really fast. Pull up the chat for me, Brandon, if you would, please. What's the best rate you're hearing from your LO right now? Yeah, look at it. 5.9, 5.25. Yeah, VA loan. Okay, 6.1.
Sure.
Right. So I mean, it's really interesting, right? So I would, by the way, stop for a second, Brandon. Stop for a second. Everyone take a screenshot of that. Everybody take a screenshot of that. And I would literally say, like, the next polling question I would ask, or in my next email I would send to my database, is, hey, I recently surveyed a bunch of my friends and I asked this question: at what interest rate do you suddenly get in the market? And, I gave you sort of three sort of soft, easy numbers. And yet, would you be shocked to hear on a recent mastermind with a bunch of the top agents from around the world, this is what their loan officer was currently providing? Right. I got April's at like 5.125 from her LO. Right. Leanne's got 5 points. Now we don't know what they're charging for this.
Sure.
We don't know what, so I'm not saying that's going to be real for everybody, but it's really interesting because if we just look at the numbers and go, oh, today it's at like 6.34 or whatever it is, but we all know your LO is going to beat those rates every day. Are you doing content with your loan officer to say, even though the rates are this, my LO can get you that? Should we have a conversation? Should we get into a dialogue? So, all right, Jimmy, I've had enough of my little sort of fun rants on polls. Please tag me in an occasional poll. Please send me like a DM and let me know how your clients are responding. I love that stuff. And I'll probably share it and give you some love on social. All right, so Jimmy, it's 9:26 here in Cali. We got to go in kind of, 10 minutes or less. I want everybody here to win some expireds and withdrawn business. And I know you got some stuff for us, so talk to us.
Yeah, I'll give you guys one campaign. It's probably my favorite campaign we've created listing leads like in the last 18 months. And let me just set the stage for this. David gave you some data that's really worth repeating. 57% increase in the number of homes that have been withdrawn from the market. And Tom and I and David did a webinar last year in December, and we told everyone, hey, come January 1st, you're going to see $180 million in commission jump ball. And so that's going to be even more true this year than it was last year. So I can summarize your strategy in a very simple phrase. In 2026, I want you to get good at selling other agents' listings. That's the strategy, because the reality is we're going to have a lot of failed listings, failed sales that are going to create a ton of opportunity for agents who are hungry, aggressive, smart, and have a strategy. So about maybe 15 years ago, this guy named Bob Milloway, who was worked with Remax in the New Jersey area, he was doing expired marketing, and he says, Jimmy, this is ingrained in my brain. Think about this. 15 years later, I still remember this campaign, Tom. He goes, Jimmy, I send out this letter every single time there's an expired in my market. Now, at that time, I didn't even know what an expired was. And he shows me the letter and what it was. And Tom, you'll know exactly what this is, because I'm sure this is a repeat of something you've seen in the past as well.
Sure.
It was an MLS sheet of a home that didn't sell, and he literally just wrote on it, "You need more photos. You don't have like a good description. You shouldn't have listed at this price." And he just mails it. He's like, he goes, my phone literally rings every time I send this message. And so I thought of this and now this is probably not in compliance anymore. He kind of got away with it because you can't do that necessarily in every market. So what we did is we created a campaign that helps educate the consumer that there's a difference between average and excellent in this industry. So let me go ahead and share my screen. And I'm going to pull up this postcard that we created, and I'll share with you guys so everyone can see this here. So on the right side, this is the front of the postcard. The headline is, "This home did not sell." And what you're doing is you're taking a screenshot of the property on Zillow, but you're specifically redacting information. You're redacting like the square footage and the Zestimate, and maybe even a little bit of the price, and certainly the address and the photos. And then on the left side, you're listing out the 7 or 8 or 5 or 6 reasons why you think it didn't sell. Now, by the way, folks, you can absolutely use ChatGPT to help here on this. Like I got a bunch of examples right now using some data. Hey, it only had 12 photos. It was listed at 700,000, says 699,000. It had no tour, had no floor plan. It used MLS jargon. And by the way, it wasn't refreshed. Now, on the left side, what I'm doing here in the back of the postcard, I'm saying, hey, David, I removed the seller's details to protect their privacy, but here's what actually happened. It sat for 93 days, got 2 showings, and had under 300 views on Zillow. By comparison, a similar home that I sold nearby had 8 showings, 1,200 views, and sold in 46 days. This is, Tom, the power of
I
contrast.
love this. I love this.
Same market, same price, different results. The difference, the details. And then, now I'm going to give everyone a quick pro tip here. Consumers want you to be direct with your offer.
Yep.
If you're considering selling and you aren't sure who to hire, consider this my application. Tom, like, we gotta go for it. And let's not beat around the bush. Hey, if you like your home value, this is a campaign where I'm saying, this is my application, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. Would you like to hire me? I'd love the chance to show you how I can help you get the results. Here's my personal sell. So this is what I would be doing as maybe one of the first postcards I'm going to send out to put my entire farm on notice that I'm different, I'm better, and I've got a strategy to help them get results.
I love that you said send that to your farm. I would also send it to my database. I would also take all of this and put it in the form of an email. I would also take all of this and probably share it in the form of an Instagram reel with like, hey, I can't show you the house or the address, but here's what I can tell you.
Yep.
And then
exactly.
You with me? Like, I love that. Or if you had a top and bottom on Instagram reel, this one didn't sell and here's why. This one sold and here's why. By the way, in the same neighborhood.
Yep. Exactly. That's exactly right.
I love that. I love that. All right. So it's 9:31. This has been super great for all my friends out there. Maybe can I just say something to you as the head coach? Do I have permission? I know I do, but I'm asking you. I wrote this down for you sort of in closing today. If I told you that in your database right now, there is, I wish I had my wallet on me. There's like $5,000 to $25,000 sitting in your CRM today. If there was $5,000 to $25,000 sitting inside your CRM, and I know there is, what would you do today to go extract it? What would you do every day? Because every day in your CRM, every day in your database, every day when you're walking through Starbucks where there's more people than your open house, every day you are surrounded by opportunity. And what I want to stress to you is between now and the end of the year, if you're not making your calls, whatever that means to you and your coach and how you decided, if you're not following up on everybody old from 23, from 24, from beginning of 25 that said, hey, when the rates come down, call me because I'm out of the market right now. If you're not aggressively trying to book right now appointments and future appointments with buyers and sellers, what you're telling me and what you're telling yourself is, I'm okay not making money. Do you hear me? That's what you're saying. When you say, I'm too busy today to make my calls, I'm too busy to follow up, I'm too busy to send the email, to send the text, what you're really saying is, I want to mail it in between now and the end of the year, and I'm okay pushing all my income out to the future. And what do we know to be true? The fourth quarter is separation season. I am working my face off. Follow my lead. Follow my lead. I'm going as aggressive as I can to help. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm going as aggressive as I can, and I'm asking you to commit to the same. I'm going to go to Thanksgiving. I'm going to have the holidays. I'm going to do all that stuff too. And I'm going to work my face off. And I'm challenging you. Think about it. Your future self depends upon the decisions you make today about making your calls, doing your follow-up, sending the texts, trying these polls, right? It's just doing the work. So I know I'm preaching to the choir because I know I got a lot of hardworking people out there. I see you. Right? I know I got a lot of teams watching and solos watching. I'm asking you to step it up. No one cares if you're tired. No one cares, right? Step it up. Think about every single day. Your discipline is ensure that your future self gets the results that you desire. There's $5,000 to $25,000 in your database right now. Go get it. That's the message of the day. All right. I'll see you in 2 weeks. And when you do some stuff, DM me, right? Send it to me. I want to see it. I want to be tagged in some polls so I can share it with others. I love you. Let's get to work. All right. Appreciate it, everybody. Thanks so much for being on the show. Let's get to work. Let's go.